I was living in my car, staring at an eviction notice, until my dog wandered into a building and accidentally inherited $10 million. Wait, what happened? The eviction notice was still taped to the door when I loaded the last box into my trunk. 48 hours, it said. Like our whole life could just fold up and fit through a window that small. Hi, name's Daniel. I guess that's where I should have started, huh? Before all this, I was a combat medic, 2 tours overseas, more emergencies than I can count. Now I push a mop bucket down empty hallways after midnight, in a building where nobody has a clue what I used to do for a living. Wild how fast things can flip on you. My daughter Mia is 7. She fell asleep at the dinner table twice in 1 week, and that's when I stopped telling myself it was nothing. The diagnosis came a month later, and with it came a bill that I genuinely could not wrap my head around. So I work nights mopping floors and pick up whatever shifts I can find during the day, and my paycheck has exactly 1 job before it has any other job. Most months, it still isn't enough. My dog Duke is the one thing in this whole mess that doesn't need an explanation. German Shepherd. Rescued him from a shelter a couple years back when I had even less than I do now. He just shows up, every single day. That's more loyalty than most people manage. Before the janitor job, I worked intake at a clinic downtown. Guy who ran it, Gareth, treated the place like his own personal bank account. I found something in the supply records that didn't sit right. Medicine ordered that never once showed up on a shelf. Should have kept my mouth shut. Instead, I brought it straight to him. "You sure you want to be the guy asking these questions?" he said, not even looking up from his desk. I said I was sure. 2 weeks later, security walked me out the front door in front of everybody I used to work with, while Gareth stood in his office doorway and said, "Nothing personal, Daniel. Inventory doesn't lie."
This is a classic example of scapegoating. By fabricating evidence and shifting blame, the aggressor preserves their status while systematically destroying the target's credibility.
Except it wasn't the inventory that lied. It was him. And somehow, my name ended up on the paperwork instead of his. Getting fired was just the first domino. Rent, then the notice on the door, then Mia and her brother sleeping in the back seat with Duke curled up between them like it was just another Tuesday. You'd think that kind of thing would feel like the end of the world, and it does, for about a week. Then, it just becomes your life. Showering at a gym I could barely afford, keeping snacks in the glove box so the kids didn't ask questions I didn't have good answers for. I applied everywhere. Warehouses, security gigs, anything with a pulse. Most places took one look at "terminated for cause" and moved on to the next application in the stack. One morning, I parked near a strip mall for an interview, told the kids to stay put, told Duke to watch them like he actually understood English, came back 40 minutes later, and he was gone. Not in the car, not around the lot, gone. I spent 2 hours walking that strip mall, calling his name until my voice gave out, and Mia kept asking where he went, and I didn't have an answer for that. Turns out he'd made it almost a mile down the road, straight through the front doors of a building he had zero business walking into. That building belonged to a man named Walter Hale. Retired officer, spent years quietly funding hospitals and shelters. His staff told me a German Shepherd walked into the lobby, sat down in front of the front desk, and would not move. Wouldn't take food, wouldn't budge for security, nothing. Walter came down to see what the fuss was, checked the tag on Duke's collar, and just stood there a second like he'd seen a ghost. My name was on that tag. When his people finally found me back at the strip mall, I figured I was in trouble for a stray dog wandering into somewhere he shouldn't have. Instead, this older man got out of the car himself, looked at me for a long second, and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" I didn't. Not until he said the name of the place, the year, and it hit me like a truck. I'd treated him in a combat zone 20 years back, kept him breathing long enough to get out alive. "I've been looking for you," he said. "You have no idea. 20 years, and I never stopped." I thought he was confused, honestly. Wrong guy, wrong dog, something. Then he told me about a will he'd written years ago, one line in it for a man he never expected to actually find. $10 million, he said. It's yours. It always was. I just stood there in that parking lot, not saying anything for what felt like a full minute. I didn't buy a mansion, traded in the car we'd been living in, and the first thing I did after that was pay off every cent of Mia's treatment. Sat in the billing office and watched the balance hit zero with my own eyes just to make sure it was real. Second thing I did was walk back into that clinic downtown and buy it outright, paperwork and all. Gareth didn't even recognize me at first when I sat down across from him in the same office he'd once stood in the doorway of, looking so pleased with himself. Took him a second to connect the name on the documents to the guy he'd walked out the front door 2 years earlier. "This some kind of joke?" he said, already reaching for his phone like he could call someone to fix it. I told him it wasn't. Watched his face go through about 4 different expressions in 5 seconds. Confusion, recognition, then something close to panic. "You can't just," he started. "I can," I said. "I did." I didn't yell. Didn't need to. Told him his services were no longer required, effective immediately. And just like that, however many years of him getting away with it was over. Right there in a room that used to make my stomach turn every time I walked into it. The clinic reopened under a new name a few months later. Free of charge, for anyone who needs it. The exact thing it should have been the whole time I worked there. Duke still sleeps at the foot of Mia's bed every night. Every time I see him do it, I think about a dog who wandered a mile down a road and refused to leave a stranger's lobby until somebody listened. I never once thought about that day in the field expecting anything back. Never crossed my mind. Guess that's usually how it works out, if it's going to work out at all. Funny thing, 20 years and 1 stubborn dog later, and that eviction notice on the door ended up being the best 48 hours warning I ever got.
Have you ever experienced an act of kindness that changed your life forever? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.